In this corner, at 5'10", weighing 165 pounds, from Huntington Beach, Joe 5 o'clock somewhere. And in this corner, 5'11", 235 pounds, from St. Louis, Missouri, Anthony Perry.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Welcome to the second half of Analyze This. It's still Tuesday, August 13th. I'm still Joe 5 o'clock somewhere.
Hey, this is Anthony Perry.
Johnny Rock and Eric V joining us in the studio, helping us out today.
Hello.
Hey. Well, we talked American League Baseball in the first half hour. We're going to talk some National League Baseball. Also coming up in this half hour, Keyshawn Johnson's going back to high school. I'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We're going to review the AFC. We're going to talk some National League Baseball, but if you're going to talk National League Baseball, I think it's only fair to talk about the hottest team in all of MLB. Let's kick it off with the Dodgers. Wow. Viva Los Doyers, huh?
I just like how you pick a team that's traditionally been associated with my National League team.
Ah, well.
Anyway, go Phillies. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that when we talk the rest of the National League, but the Dodgers right now are just so above and beyond everyone else. You heard me, AP. Everyone else in the National League.
This is a team that went from worst to first in less than a month.
You know, but
now they're just crushing it.
And they have, when I told you they were going to play better, is when the guys came back off of injury, because they had so many people that were injured. It was unreal.
What's crazy is the injuries haven't really hurt them.
No, they have. That's why they were in last place.
I absolutely disagree. The injuries to Kemp is how Yasiel Puig got on a major league roster. The guy that just when we weren't on the air, you were saying was better than Mike Trout. That guy who hasn't even played a full season in baseball. Yeah, Kemp going down is why Puig got called up. So no, the injuries haven't hurt them.
It wasn't just it wasn't just Kemp going down. It was Crawford also going down.
Well.
And they had Van Slyke as a is it Scott Van Slyke is his first name?
Scott Van Slyke.
Scott Van Slyke got called up before Puig.
Don't forget Hanley Ramirez was out too.
Yeah, but Henley playing shortstop. So we're talking about outfielders right now.
I didn't know you were just talking about that.
But I'm just saying, right, you had Henley, you had Crawford, you have Kemp, you had, and somebody else went down. You had a pitcher that went down earlier in the year.
Greinke, right, with a collarbone.
Oh, yeah, Carlos Quentin hit him like a freight train.
So you actually had like 5 or 6 guys, main guys, go down for the team. So they were scuffling. So you couldn't really measure the Dodgers. I didn't think they were much of anything, but I figured now they're the best team money could buy. They are now the Yankees in the West. What do they have? A $230 million payroll, something like that. So they went out and purchased guys, but they actually didn't start doing well until Hanley Ramirez got back after Puig got everything started. When Hanley Ramirez came back, he was killing the ball.
Hanley just lit a fire under that team. I mean, I saw his first couple games back, and man, that guy didn't just come back from injury. I mean, he just kicked in the door and said, I'm here to stay.
He is the guy that was with the Florida Marlins early in his career that was considered either the first or number 2 guy in all of baseball.
Well, not only that,
as a hitter.
A lot of people thought he was a head case too, and because this just is a prime example of what happens when you take a great player and take him off of a horrible team and put him in a winning situation. He's not a head case. He's not driving dogmatically crazy. He's playing the game. He's winning.
Well, when he was with Florida, they had chances where they were a very good team.
Until they started losing, and then he became a disciplinary problem.
Yeah.
And then he became somebody that was an embarrassment to the
He didn't want to be
clubhouse.
there anymore. It just became more than
Puig
it was.
aren't too tight in the clubhouse because I hear they're both disciplinary problems.
Yeah, but you haven't heard anything wrong with Hanley Ramirez at all.
No.
And Puig, as we talked about, they didn't want to bring him up for the longest time
Because of his attitude.
It wasn't just his attitude; it was just that he's young and immature. But you got to understand, a guy's coming from Cuba where everything was was tightly squeezed around his neck. He had to do whatever they told him to do. Now he has all this money and freedom, and he's young. He's just doing what young people do, like your boy in Texas A&M, who's still in college acting a total crazy nut, but he's 20 years old. That's what Puig is, with $40 million.
How come we never heard any?
Johnny Football's got not a damn thing to do with the Dodgers.
No, I'm saying attitude.
No, I'm just saying. How come you can't use the Cuba thing as an excuse?
I'm tired of those excuses.
Yeah, how come we never heard any of this stuff out of, like,
it is
the Oakland
excuses, 'cause when the
A's with Yoenis Cespedes last year?
Hold on, I'm going to say something real quick. It is always an excuse. And we've had this conversation. When the biogenesis thing came down, I said something should be said about 13 of the 14 players all being Latin players, and we're fed this excuse by Pedro Gomez. Oh, they come from third world countries and tin shacks and no running water. That doesn't make it okay for the kid that was born with a silver spoon in his mouth that's been trying his hardest since T-ball that gets beat off a roster spot because someone's cheating. I am tired of that excuse.
But it's not an excuse. It's reality. He's stating facts that people aren't talking about. That's all it is. It doesn't make it an excuse. He's saying this is what they're doing and this is why they're doing. Is it any different when Petty took his PEDs and said, I only did it because I was injured? Same thing. I don't want to be out. I want to be in, so I've taken it to heal.
You know what, though?
What's the difference?
That injury excuse, speaking of the American League,
I'm saying it's a reason why people do what they do.
Nelson Cruz is full of crap.
Doesn't matter. I'm saying all.
I have had H. pylori, the same intestinal bacteria that he was claiming. I'm sorry, the steroids he took that were implicated in the biogenesis panel have nothing to do with a gastrointestinal bug. All it does is give you really, really bad heartburn.
Okay, I don't know what he took, and I don't know what was wrong.
That is just a load of horse crap.
But we don't know what Cruz was before or after because I don't know when he took him. Cruz is, to me, is not a great player. He's a good player that hits home runs in Texas. Anybody that plays in Texas and Philadelphia, everything flies out in the summer anyway. So really, how good are they? We really don't know.
Let's talk about the whole National League right now because there's a few teams that are worth mentioning. You talked about Philadelphia.
Pittsburgh. Phillies.
Thank you. Pittsburgh has not slowed down.
I predicted they would slow down. I find myself eating crow on that. I really do.
I did too several weeks back, but then 2 weeks ago I picked them to win the National League. I've changed my tune since then. I now have the Dodgers winning the National League.
I still don't see them beating Pittsburgh yet.
The Dodgers beating Pittsburgh?
Yep.
It'd be a great series.
Well, it might be a great series because I got to tell you, when they played the last time they played, Pittsburgh took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers are right now the hottest team in baseball. But when they go up against really good pitching, you find out where the Dodgers are, and they've won some close games. So you got to give them that. And they signed the Giants' closer, so they're waiting for him to get his arm stronger, so they can look at him as a 7th or 8th inning guy. So I'm looking at them saying the Dodgers are monsters. I got to give them that. But they still have free-swinging guys who at times don't hit well. The Dodgers are winning. I keep saying it because of Schumacher, A.J. Ellis, and every now and then the third baseman they keep plugging in or keep getting big hits. And I got to give them their props. They're a complete team, but those big guys aren't always doing so well. So it's going to be interesting.
Let me ask you this. How do you think Atlanta Braves fans feel about all this Dodger hype and how the Dodgers are the best team in baseball, yet the Braves have the best record in the NL?
Still?
I bet they're happy.
Yeah, 72 and 47.
You know, I got to be Atlanta is a benefit of their division.
Yeah, pretty much. You're right about that.
But Atlanta's
there was a lot of hype around Washington. They were supposed to be good. We both picked them preseason.
But the Nats this year are not the Nats of last year.
No, they're the same team. Wow. They're the same team. They're just not that good.
Atlanta's got a 14-game lead on their division.
Over the team that everyone picked to win the East. Wow. I know AP and I both did preseason.
I thought the Washington would be good again, but they're not that good.
I really thought they'd be good.
I actually picked Atlanta.
Well, come on.
Once they signed up in Hay.
Washington's number 2 hitter on the team is a guy from Philadelphia, so you know how good he is. Worth.
I just realized earlier when I meant to say
Worth was a Dodger
I said Philly. Philly's horrible this year.
Philly's horrible.
Wrong Pennsylvania team. Sorry there, Johnny Rock.
It's all right. It's all right.
So, no, I think the National League is pretty cool. It all depends. Like we talked about, the Central's going to have 3 teams. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati.
Absolutely.
Right,
although
and the Cardinals.
I did got to bring one thing up, AP. Did you see what happened this week concerning the Phillies?
No.
I said it would happen, and it did. Chase Utley signed a massive
2-year extension.
Yeah.
Well, not massive.
That's
2 years.
Good as far as
with
the future.
For an aging player, it's a massive deal.
That's fine for going into the future, but the Phillies are less relevant than the Angels are this year. So 18 and a half back, they're not even worth talking about with a quarter of the season left to play.
They won't be relevant until they trade some of their high-end talent that's not doing well, and they bring up some people from their AAA team.
I got to be honest. I want Howard off the books.
Howard and a few other people.
That
but
would be the piece to trade.
Utley's a keeper.
What could you get for Howard at this stage of his career?
I don't know, but Darren Roof has really shown me what he can do at first base.
This
so,
stage of his career, I don't know. The Angels gave Albert Pujols 10 years, and he's much older than Ryan Howard.
Yeah, but see, they moved
No,
him
no,
to
they're
the,
not.
they moved. They
No,
brought
they're
him to the American League. I'm guessing strictly for DH role.
Oh, he's
Well,
got-
obviously,
they
that's
got-
why he went national to American.
Because they got
That's why
Trumbo. They
players
got
do that.
Trumbo at first base. He's going to have to learn how to play that.
Trumbo's
position
gone
better.
next year, I promise you that.
Trumbo's
Yeah.
a horrible
I
first
I promise
baseman.
you, we do not hang on to Trumbo. We were shopping him around before the deadline. Him and Howie, actually, and I would hate to
I
lose
actually
Howie
can
Kendrick.
see crazy theory here. I said it in the offseason last year. I can actually see Mark Trumbo in red pinstripes.
Really?
I thought he would have been a great fit for the Phillies this year. I still think he'd be a great fit for.
And
the
what
Phillies.
happened to Michael Young? Where did he go?
Michael Young's still with the Phillies.
No, he got
Third
got traded.
baseman.
Didn't
He's
he
the
get
third
I could have
baseman
swore
for
he
the
got
Phillies.
There was a
traded.
lot
No,
of
he
trade
got
talk.
traded from Texas to Philly. He was
No.
on the block, and
What?
he never did get traded out of
No.
Philly.
Okay, then that's what I
He's
heard.
a
Okay.
He
Philly
was one of the
third baseman.
names that they were swearing up and down on ESPN that would get moved at the deadline, but no, Michael Young's still a Philly.
And you know what, Michael Young, I like Michael Young as a Philly. He's great. He's great for the next couple of years, filling in at third base until we can bring up a rookie prospect. You know, that's Philly's biggest problem right now is no depleted farm system.
Well, then that means you're going to be bad for the next 5 or so years.
And
So-
I'm already prepared for that.
So we'll forget about Philly. Washington will be back next year, but Washington needs a lot of help.
As far as this year, does anyone disagree with me that the 5 teams from the National League that are going to make the playoffs are the Dodgers, Pirates, Cardinals, Reds, and Braves?
I don't know about
No.
the Reds, but
No,
you
no,
know,
the Reds.
The Reds just might. You know what? They may be all right. I just think they're still reeling from that sweep at home.
Well, hold on.
But
If
who's
you
gonna
say,
say- Cincy.
hold on. If you say no, I want to know the team that's going to be there instead.
Let me see that piece of paper.
There isn't another team more than 3 games over 500.
Yeah.
That's a shame. Arizona could be in there though.
Ooh, yeah.
That would be a good- that would be a good out on a limb pick.
Unfortunately, they're 6 back in the wild card from Cincinnati. So you guys could be right on that, but again, I still think Cincinnati's going to fall by the wayside come when the time comes.
Since he's got pitching, though.
Yeah, that's the team that I
Since he's
am
got pitching.
definitely sold on their pitching. Cincinnati, I mean, holy crap.
There's
I
5
don't see it,
decent
man.
teams in
I don't
baseball.
see the Reds falling out of the playoffs, John.
Well,
I
you
think
know,
the Central is the best. The NL Central is the best division in baseball this
probably
year.
the best division, but you know, like I said, Arizona led that division for most of the season until the Dodgers just
What-
came out of nowhere.
But think
all right?
about it. They
And then boom.
led it when everybody was under 500.
Hey, you know what it is? You know when the change?
And
I just thought of this. You know what the turning point for the Dodgers and Diamondbacks might have actually been?
when?
The brawl.
That's right.
When
the
McGuire was
brawl.
about to beat up Matt Williams and Kirk Gibson, and they both backed down from him because they didn't want any piece of Big Mac, that's when it changed. Arizona was leading the NL West for most of the year. Then the brawl happened, and
Yeah.
the Los Doyers.
No, they got healthy.
Yeah, well,
They got healthy and angry.
healthy and angry.
Yeah, because you hit Puig in the head. So he was like, why you hit me in the head? Henry Ramirez came back healthy. Yeah, they're the bomb. And I believe they're going to trade Kemp. That would be smart to
I would.
trade Kemp.
I would trade him right now. Well, obviously can't now.
Just so you know
in the
that
offseason.
Michael Young has cleared waivers and he's still basically on the trading block until the 31st.
Yeah,
Well-
but I don't see him making a move at all.
I can't
just
see a
saying-
team that's going into the playoffs wanting him.
Well, dude, Michael Young is a consistent 300 hitter, regardless of this season. Okay.
Actually, he's doing a lot better this
fantastic
year
job.
than he was last
I'm
year.
surprised he did stay in Texas as long as he did. Honestly.
Well, he was their best hitter his whole career in Texas. So absolutely.
Yeah.
That
So,
guy was Mr. Texas Ranger.
We're going to
He
take a
was.
real quick break. Be right back with more Fanalize This and talk about a bunch of stuff that only makes sense to the 4 of us.
that's right.
One trick is to tell them stories that don't go anywhere. Like the time I caught the ferry over to Shelbyville, I needed a new heel for my shoe. So I decided to go to Morganville, which is what they call Shelbyville in those days. So I tied an onion to my belt, which was the style at the time. Now, to take the ferry cost a nickel, and in those days, nickels had pictures of bumblebees on them. Give me 5 B's for a quarter, you'd say. Now, where were we? Oh, yeah. The important thing was that I had an onion on my belt, which was the style at the time. They didn't have white onions because of the war. The only thing you could get was those big yellow ones.
Well, we're back and we're about to review the AFC. And we're going to go ahead and start with the North. And that's you, AP.
Wow, the AFC North. We look at the Super Bowl champion, Baltimore Ravens, and where they're going to be this year. And I think Baltimore is going to be just fine. As a matter of fact, though, I'm looking at that division and thinking that division is going to take a step back. Everybody in it except for Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati is going to be the bomb because they signed James Harrison, and I am loving what they're doing. They were, the number 2 team in the division last year at 10-6, So I'm looking at them and saying they're going to win that division at maybe 11-5 because I'm looking at them as a solid, very solid team. But I think Baltimore is going to stay right in there at like 9-7 and maybe even tie them at 10-6 unless.
This is crazy. I've agreed with every single word you've just said so far.
Yeah.
I hate
every
saying it.
word.
I did too.
Every word.
Need to write that down.
Yeah.
I think Baltimore's way too depleted from their offseason.
But they're not depleted. That's the thing. Baltimore, when they signed Doomerville and they signed a couple other guys, what was interesting is they lost a few guys from Reed. And you lose one of the best leaders ever in football as your middle linebacker, but they signed 2 or 3 very good players. So it's like they lost aging guys. They're now having new talent that's good. Doomerville out of Denver
I don't know that
was a
Pollard
very good
and
player.
Ellerby and Kruger are aging guys, though.
No, but I'm saying,
Who they got for receivers now? They lost Bolden.
and they lost Bolden,
And they lost Dennis Pitta for the season.
and they lost Dennis Pitta.
But they did.
Most of their problem is that they weren't throwing the ball downfield anyway. So they still have Jacoby Jones, which is not a bad receiver.
Torrey Smith.
What
And
I was
Torrey
going to say,
Smith
though, it's not Pitta
and Ray
and Bolden,
Rice.
but they did just keep Stokely yesterday and sign Dallas Clark.
And
So it
Dallas
is a
Clark.
temporary replacement. It's worth mentioning.
So the
Okay.
thing is, they maybe changes who they throw to and how they throw. But, their game on offense is built on Ray Rice. So it's coming out of the backfield and up the middle or off tackle. He's number 1 and number 2 option. And then it's who they throw through to stretch the field.
Who they
So
get
I'm
to
looking at
replace Ray
both.
Lewis?
As a leader, Suggs is still there, and he's still a leader on the team. How do you say, Nodi Nada? Is still a leader on that team.
Nada.
So they still have leaders, and Harbaugh is one of the best coaches in football. So they have leaders on that team, so I really like them. The only team in that division that isn't pretty good is Cleveland. I think Cleveland is the one that's the pits. And Pittsburgh, I'm looking at Pittsburgh as an 8-8 team tops if they make it at all, because Pittsburgh has nothing but an aging defense, and then they lose their best player, and then the next thing they have is my boy, the linebacker, free safety, who's 11 years in, and then Ryan Clark, who's 12 years in. I'm looking at them and saying Pittsburgh is 8-8 at best, so they might be, them in Cleveland, fighting for that last position, because I'm looking at them and saying one team is coming out, maybe 2 making the playoffs.
Now,
I don't know. I heard Pittsburgh got a run game this year.
let me make sure we're talking about the same person. When you say Pittsburgh lost their best player, we're talking about that boy that went down to Miami?
No, well, they lost Wallace, and they lost their running back Mendenhall to the Cardinals.
Okay, there's no way Mendenhall's better than
No,
Mike
no,
Wallace.
God, no.
I knew, obviously, you were
No,
going with the
Wallace.
Cardinal guy. That's
No,
why I
Wallace.
said what I said.
Wallace is. I'm saying Wallace is a receiver, but they lost Harrison. I'm saying they lost part of their mainstay in their defense.
No, your statement was they lost their best player. I'm asking you who is their best
Harrison.
player you're referring to.
I'm thinking Harrison on defense.
I would think Palomalu.
No, Palomato's 11 years in. He's getting old. He's beat up. So I don't think so.
Well, anyways, jumping over the East, where Mike Wallace did end up as a Miami Dolphin with their horrendous new uniforms. They didn't do anything to help themselves. I mean, yeah, you got Mike Wallace, you overpaid for him, you overpaid for Donnell Ellerby, you got Dustin Keller, that's a whatever to me. You lost Reggie Bush, you lost Jake Long. I think Miami's going to be horrible again.
You still have Tannehill under center.
Yeah, you still have Tannehill under center. That can't be a good thing. So, no, nothing out of Miami. We'll skip over the joke real quick because I want to talk about the other New York team right now. E.J. Manuel did look somewhat impressive to me, even though it was preseason. However, he is a Florida State quarterback, so I don't have any confidence in those guys. See Christian Ponder. I don't know, but I guess they did get Manny Lawson was about the only thing they did. That's the only, as far as when you brought up the Bengals, that was a loss that I would have mentioned. I mean, Manny Lawson was really the only positive thing Buffalo did. They did release a few aging guys that used to be good at defense. Remember Lights Out Merriman, remember Nick Barnett? Yeah, they're all unemployed now. So Buffalo, I mean, I do like E.J. Manuel. I like C.J. Spiller. But, again, we all know whose division this is. We'll get to them last. Let's talk about the joke of the NFL. Who have the New York Jets not lost? Okay, Sean Green's gone. Revis Island's gone. LaRon Landry's gone. Big Bart Scott's gone. What have they got? Geno Smith.
They don't even have Tim Tebow
Holy
anymore.
crap, they lost Tebow even. The Jets have lost everyone. It took, let's see, what was it, 3 plays for Mark Sanchez to throw his first pick 6 of the preseason? 3 plays. This team is horrible. I don't know why Rex Ryan has a job. I mean, with all the firings that we saw, especially with a guy like Lovie Smith, who I can't stop bringing up, getting fired at 10-6, Rex Ryan has a job.
But Rex wasn't
makes
the problem.
no sense to me.
Rex wasn't the problem. It was the GM that was the problem because he brought in the talent.
Is it the
and
head
he
coach?
didn't replace anybody.
Let me ask you this. Is it the GM's job or the head coach's job to make sure your number one receiver and quarterback like each other and don't quit on each other, because we know that happened.
Not only that, Rex Ryan has a tattoo of Mark Sanchez's number.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might, but all I'm saying is
That's
a
not loyalty.
GM brings them in.
Whose
and
job is the question though? Is
Okay.
it the GM's job or the head coach's job to make sure that Santana Moss and Mark Sanchez don't hate each other?
That's the
and
player's
Moss
job.
quit on plays.
That's the player's
you know
job.
he did.
That's the player's job. The coach can't make anybody like anybody. So you can't put two guys together and say, go be friends. You say go do well because you're on the same team.
If I could sum up the Rex Ryan, Mark Sanchez
Nope,
era
you
in
can't.
2 words, butt fumble.
Yeah, butt fumble. Now, one more team, and I'll be quick about it because we all know New England is New England. Yes, they've lost a bunch of receivers. Doesn't matter. They've added Danny Amendola. They've never had stars at receiver. Tom Brady makes receivers. They're going to run away with this division like they always do, even with the losses of Wes Welker, that murderer guy, and Danny Woodhead, which I think is San Diego's best pickup. That being said...
Not to mention Gronk's out, too.
Yeah, well, Gronk, I don't think much of that guy anyways. He can't stay healthy. That being said, Patriots are winning the East. Let's have Johnny tell us about the South.
What's the record?
The record? I haven't looked at their schedule, but I see the Patriots winning 12 games. It's the Patriots, dude.
Yeah. The Brady train. All right. AFC South. Let's start with let's go with the bottom of the barrel hill. Jacksonville Jaguars. They say they're in a rebuilding year. I say they've been rebuilding for years. Maurice Jones-Drew is pretty much the only shining star of that team. Blaine Gabbert, I'm sorry, he's not the answer. Let's go ahead with the Tennessee Titans. Added another running back. They got Sean Green. Replaced one veteran quarterback with Hasselbeck leaving, Ryan Fitzpatrick coming in. The point is, Jake Locker is not a franchise quarterback, no matter what veteran you have backing him up, giving him pointers.
I agree.
Let's see. Indianapolis Colts. The Colts, what can I say about the Colts? Their biggest problem last year, Andrew Luck getting sacked. Most of that was on Andrew Luck. It was also on the O-line. They beefed up the O-line. So we're going to see a lot less sacks from out of Andrew Luck. I see them making the wild cards, but let's talk about them Houston Texans. They are going to run away with this division. Colts, you had your time in the sun. Peyton left. Andrew Luck's got it, but he's going to need help getting there. You're not there yet. Houston Texans are going to run away with the AFC South as they have the last 2 years. You know, the pieces they lost, they made up for. They lose Glover Quinn. They add Ed frickin' Reed. So whereas it's kind of a high risk, high reward on your secondary there. You got the veteran. You got this hot rookie. What's his name?
Hopkins?
No. He's receiver. I'm talking about defense right now.
Oh.
But isn't Reed injured?
Oh yeah.
He's still coming off for surgery.
Yeah, he's also, 57 years old.
But no, let's talk about
He'll do all right.
Let's talk about DeAndre Hopkins for a minute.
That's about all you have.
All right, well, if that's all I got, I mean...
No, about all you have is a minute.
Yeah,
so make it
DeAndre
happen.
Hopkins, this kid is hot. He caught 18 touchdowns last year in college. I'm thinking big things for him. He's filling in Kevin Walter's old spot. This guy is going to take all the pressure off of Andre Johnson.
If not the rookie Bell in Denver, Hopkins is my rookie of the year in Houston.
Yeah, I would second that. He's going to take all the pressure off of Andre Johnson. He's going to take the pressure off Varian Foster, let that running game open up. This guy, I think, is what the Texans' offense needed to make it past that second round of the playoffs.
One question: can Matt Schaub handle the pressure?
Matt Schaub is a good quarterback. He's not great, he's not elite, but he is a good quarterback. And if Trent Dilfer can win a Super Bowl, I can see Matt Schaub competing in one.
Excellent point.
Wow.
Now, well, Eric, since you...
He's got all the right pieces.
Well, there's only one division left, and if
Yeah.
you haven't figured it out, it's the AFC West. Two of us in the studio are actually fans of teams in this division, but I was gracious enough to give it over to my buddy Eric V. and let him discuss the AFC West.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. The Denver Broncos, they have this Super Bowl or bust kind of attitude. They kind of fell apart last year in the AFC Championship game against Baltimore. But you know what? There's nothing you can say about it. Peyton Manning, they signed up Wes Welker. They brought in Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie and drafted Monty Ball. You know what? They sound like a very good, great team on paper. It looks like they could run away with the whole AFC conference. All right. Now, I'm going to say that the Raiders aren't going to go anywhere near 5 wins this year.
And
But-
as a card-carrying member of the Raider Nation, I absolutely agree with you.
Thank you very much. They did sign Rashad Jennings, and they did pick up Joshua Cribbs, who is an awesome kick returner, wide receiver. And they brought back the old man, Charles Woodson. And then they ended up trading for quarterback Matt Flynn. And unfortunately, their wide receiver core isn't really that good. So
have you heard of two of them?
No.
Yeah,
I think
so.
I got one here, and I think his name is Mike Jenkins. Oh, no. That's not Mike Jenkins. Darius Hayward-Bay.
No, Hayward-Bay's gone.
Yeah. At least they're not using practice squad guys like they were last year.
Oh, man. See, now I don't know nothing.
Well, what about the other two teams? Because I know one is yours.
Yeah, they got Rod Streeter. Anyway, and then they have... Oh, yeah, Kansas City. I believe they're going to take second place in the division. They can beat Denver under the tutelage of Andy Reid, okay? Unfortunately, they're just not going to be that good of a team under the new scheme because, Andy Reid likes to throw the ball a lot. They really don't run the ball.
Let me ask you a quick question.
Sure.
Who's your favorite team?
Kansas City.
Oh, shocking.
Okay.
Kansas City Reeds.
I'm just saying from a 4-win team that they're going to win or be second in the division.
They should
so go
be
ahead. I just
second
wanted
in
to
the
understand.
division. They don't really have that much competition. And you know what? Finally, we're going to go with the San Diego Chargers, who really had some problems last year, and they could use a really big shot in the arm. They got a new head coach this year, and Corey Leggett came from Tampa Bay. So, we'll see what happens and where it stands.
I think they drafted well, but that's about it. I mean, they beefed up the O-line, but for what? You got no running game. You have a terrible quarterback in Phillip Rivers. I don't understand why Mark Sanchez gets so much flack and Phillip Rivers gets none. That guy is just as bad as Mark Sanchez. Not last year, but the 2, maybe even 3 seasons before that, led the NFL in turnovers.
You know why? Because there's no videos of Phillip Rivers' butt.
I'm just saying, he leads the league in turnovers all the time, and everyone talks how bad Sanchez is. Phillip Rivers is terrible.
Well, hey, you know what? I think the Chargers this year is going to be Manti Te'o's fake girlfriend.
Rivers has played on a bad knee in the playoffs when his star running back didn't, so he's always been getting the pub as a leader.
Look,
always.
The roster for San Diego
I'm saying he's not good.
is especially shaky at wide receiver and quarterback, but it tells a different story, and even though San Diego tends to rebuild on the fly, they're going to have a tough time coming in and trying to contend for that division. So there it is. Denver, Kansas City, maybe San Diego over Oakland, but I doubt it. And, good luck for the rest of the NFC or the AFC to compete with the Denver Broncos.
So what do you think the playoff situation is going to be for the AFC?
Denver, Houston, New England, and who else is there? Indy. Yeah.
Figure out those wild cards later.
Yeah.
Well, we got a couple more minutes here, and we got a couple little stories, so let's hit you guys off with a little bit of...
I'm just saying.
All right, Johnny, we're going to let you go ahead and go first on this one.
Oh, yeah, so, you hear about Chris Johnson?
Chris Johnson, Atlanta Braves Chris Johnson?
Yeah, not Tennessee Titans Chris Johnson.
Right.
No, Chris Johnson, third baseman for the Braves, was ejected the other night in a game against Miami by veteran umpire Jim Joyce. He comes back the next day in a show of rare humility from a ball player, and this is what I like. It's showing that you're humble. But he comes back in with duct tape over his mouth. Showing Jim Joyce tips his cap.
Wait. In the game?
No, the next game. The very next game.
So in the game, he was wearing duct tape over his mouth?
He was wearing duct tape over his mouth for the entire game so he wouldn't argue any calls with home plate umpire Jim Joyce.
That is awesome.
That just shows, look, I was out of line.
All right, next I think we'll go over to APU. What about them crooked people in the NCAA? Let's talk about them for a minute.
I don't think the NCAA is crooked. What I think they are is they're pimps. I think they're the biggest pimps outside of the United States government. That they're an agency that makes millions, tens of millions of dollars on a product, which are the young men and women inside of the NCAA or the universities in the country that bring in dollars. They do nothing to make money, and they make rules saying that the students can't make money. They can't have jobs. They can't get sponsorship. They can't profit from who they are and what they do. I have a problem with that.
I forgot who it was on ESPN yesterday that said it, but it was a great point. They should have a national signing day and have every single college player get paid 1 penny for it. You can't punish them all if they're all doing it. You won't have anyone to put on the field and make that money for you.
You know what I think? I think all the players literally should come in and sit down and protest the game. Come into the game and don't play.
I say you don't get paid until you're in the pros.
Then I think they shouldn't profit off. They shouldn't have 90,000 seat stadiums filled.
Anywho, we talked about the NFL coming up, and that could also only mean one thing.
Fantasy football.
Eric V, why don't you tell us about fantasy football?
Well, honestly, I can't tell you much because I have no clue what I'm doing. I did join a league that was created by the alumni here at the academy.
Uh-oh, we got a rookie?
Yes, and
boy.
I just hope I do very well. I don't know what the heck I'm going to do, so I'm going to count on a lot of help from people that don't want to help me.
Don't worry about it, bro. I'll trade rape you all season.
I'm sure you will, and that's all I got to say about that.
I think we got the toilet bowl roller right here. Better start get a fitter for a dress. That's all I gotta say.
Oh wait, what's the prize?
Well, we were discussing if we continue this league next year that we may have a sacco punishment, being that if you lose the league, next year's draft day and drag.
Stony.
If you take
Sounds
8 out of
good to
8,
me.
that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
Sounds
next year's
great.
draft's at Buffalo Wild.
Okay, so we got a little bit more time here, and I wanted to talk about one more story because I think it's hilarious. Keyshawn Johnson's going back to high school, but not for the reason you would think. His son's actually a wide receiver at Mission Viejo High School. He's now the wide receivers coach. Fun fact, Rob Johnson...
So what you're saying, now he's the mouth of the South County.
Yeah, Rob Johnson, former quarterback who... Buffalo, Oakland, he played with Tampa also at some point, didn't he?
Yeah.
Rob Johnson is the quarterback's coach for Mission Viejo High School, so I'm thinking we should go to a Mission Viejo High School next season and try to meet Keyshawn. What, I'm the only fan?
You're
Come
the
on.
only fan.
Get out of here with all that.
My wife went to Mission Viejo High School, so there.
Really?
Shout out.
Well, we're about out of time here for this week's Fanalize This. Like I said, it's the last one for about a month. I want to thank Johnny Rock and Eric V for sitting in today.
Thanks for having us.
As always, I want to thank AP for being my sidekick on the show, and it's a great show that we do. I can't wait to come back and do it. Learn a few things about, baseball from AP, some MMA from Michael Lou whenever he comes back, and be able to school you guys in NBA. So until then, make sure you check us out on Spreaker.com, Twitter, YouTube. Follow us on Facebook. Anything else you want to add, AP?
Hey, what I want to say is I want to wish my boy well in his back surgery and have a full recovery. So we'll be praying for him. So let's all keep J5 in heart. Okay.
Absolutely.
For Fanalize This, I'm Joe 5 o'clock somewhere.
Hey, this is AP.
Peace.